Welcome to Better Together with your hosts, EmmaLee Italia and Jennifer Morrow. When we all work together, we are stronger and can accomplish more for the kingdom of God. And now, here are the hosts of Better Together, EmmaLee Italia and Jennifer Morrow.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Better Together. I'm Jen Morrow.
I'm EmmaLee Italia. How are you, Jen?
I'm good. It's December. We haven't seen each other since before Thanksgiving.
I know. What happened? Time warp.
You got that right. How was Thanksgiving?
It went fast. Like I was remarking to my in-laws as we were leaving, like, you do all this preparation and it feels like it takes so long. And then before you know it, you're saying goodbye to everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was lovely. It's always lovely to see everyone. But how about you? Did you do anything different?
I went to Texas to see my family, which has been a while, actually. We flew down actually on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the day before.
How was that?
So I've never traveled on like any major holiday like that. So we took the first flight out, left at 6 a.m. and it was a dream. No,
You're
we
kidding.
parked at the parking lot.
I thought you were going to say it took
No.
like 3 hours extra. And
Not at all. We
zoo.
walked in. We had like an hour ahead of time because there was nobody in line. We walked. I got my
Wow.
steps in that morning. We walked. We walked to the airport and got on
Awesome.
the plane, and it was perfect. Now, when we landed in Texas, however, by now it's like 9:30. So
Oh, then I'm
it was a
sure it
madhouse.
was, yeah.
So if you ever have to fly on a day before a holiday, I would say get the first flight out.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's
but
good
yeah.
to know.
I was shocked. So yeah, I got to see my mom, my brother, some
Nice.
cousins and aunts, and my niece, and so it was a good time.
Oh, sounds like a good crowd.
Yeah.
Do you guys do the traditional turkey, or do you try something different? I don't know if like Texas food, you do a like Tex-Mex spin on it.
No, we're pure turkey people, but then we have like all the sides that are like, of course, everybody has sweet potatoes with marshmallows probably, but we have like, I don't know, all kinds of crazy things like stuffing with sausage and, you know what? I just can't think right now. I'm trying to think what
It's
might
fun.
be different.
It's fun to hear how people do it a little bit different. I'm a foodie, so I like seeing the different traditions, and like we never had macaroni and cheese as a side, but that's kind of become a thing over the years, like
Yep.
the traditional baked. My son is not a huge Thanksgiving food fan of the traditional stuff, but he really likes the macaroni and cheese, so that's become his little fallback.
Do you do scalloped potatoes? We do scalloped potatoes.
My mom always did.
Okay.
Well, she didn't do scallop that was more like a Easter with the ham thing, I think.
Okay.
I think it was my grandfather used to do the mashed potatoes all the time, and that has been passed on to me. And every year I'm kind of like, you sure don't want me to do something else? And anybody else want to do the potatoes? Like, no,
Nope.
you got this. So
It's like once something is
whatever.
set in stone, too.
That's your job.
Like, that's what you do. Like, my mom for Easter, I may have said this already, she makes this bunny cake, and which is, it's basically, box cake shaped in a thing of a bunny. She covers it all in, white icing and coconut. But when my cousins come back to visit, and they're like in their 30s, if the bunny cake isn't there will be words. Like,
Right.
they're like, Aunt Carol, where's the bunny cake? And my mom's like, I thought we didn't have to do that anymore. You're adults. They're like, no, yeah, you got to do that.
That
So
is so fun.
we've all
Oh my
learned
gosh.
that certain, like my aunt, she makes this thing for Thanksgiving. It's always like strawberries and Jello, and on the bottom is like cream cheese and pretzels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
that's
really
different.
good. Yeah, so
Oh
that
my
always has to show up, and so yeah. Anyway, it was a good trip. It was a
There's
good
something
time.
comforting about knowing what to anticipate with those fun family food traditions and
Yep.
I don't know, like there were some that I was glad to say goodbye to, as an adult. I was like, oh, okay, I don't never need to eat that again. But
Is it the green beans with those onion thingies on top?
we never did that.
What?
But honestly, my brother-in-law used to work for the company that makes the onions, the crunchy onions. So for a while there, that was a big side staple because,
Yeah.
this is like making the onions, so we gotta
We make. I will say that one thing that I make still, and my mom makes it the best. So when I get home, like, yay! It is. I think I talked about this on Talking Catholic too. Actually, it's green Jello, and then it has cream cheese and marshmallows in it, and then you kind of and
Is it
pineapple.
like all stirred together, or is it layered?
No, it's all stirred
Okay.
together. Now, my mom makes it with walnuts and celery, and I'm like, yeah, that's an abomination. No. So,
don't quite
but
get the
when you
celery.
take that to a party, it's basically just a green mold with
Mhm.
marshmallows on top, and people are
Yeah.
like, no. I'm
That
good.
was a big deal in the 80s, I feel like.
Yeah,
and,
like
and even
what's
before that, like 70s, like the Jell-O mold.
ambrosia?
Yeah,
But this wasn't
we
ambrosia.
had
but-
like fluffy salad. My
Yeah.
mom called it. You know, it was like, well, it was because it
like
was
that.
like mixed. I forget. Like it made it fluffy somehow. It was like a Jell-O base, and my mom's gonna be like, "How do you not remember what goes in there?" Some sort of fruit and walnuts,
Yeah.
and but it was kind of like an ambrosia.
It's
I
so good.
I don't know. It
I
was
love
like
it.
you had to have some sort of pink or green fluffy thing.
I bring it to if I'm ever invited to somewhere for Christmas, I bring it. And I will tell you, for the most part, people are like, "Oh, thanks," and then they do try it. Some people like it, some don't. I mean, the color alone, it is bright green. That
Yeah,
sucker
that's
is
a little
neon
off-putting
green.
sometimes.
But
Like I don't think they make that in nature.
yeah, definitely not. But it's
Oh,
kind of
wow.
cool that we're talking about,
Right.
this, and because one of our topics today is hospitality, for the show. So this fits right in that we're talking about
It
Thanksgiving.
does. Well, once I get started on food, it's hard to shut me up. So. That's a
Everybody,
big
we
part of
did
it.
threaten Emily and I talking off air having a food show, especially since this is on YouTube, and then just like bringing all these dishes in.
Right.
I
We
don't.
could have like the members only section, like that happens after the regular show.
Subscription based. You can maybe you'll see me make the green seafoam salad.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that. Like the actual demo.
Yeah, that could be a special.
Okay.
I'm sure Emily's is much better than mine since you are a professional chef.
Ish. Yeah. A little side gig. Oh
So
my
talking
goodness.
about, I mean, you are a cook. You are an amazing cook and amazing baker. And this is like your season, no? Like, or does this like stress you out? Or do you like doing it?
Traditionally it is. Like I felt like I got to do all the things because mom growing up was all, got to make all the cookies with all the crazy, wonderful decoration. She still does. It's just that we're not usually around to eat it. So she's doing it for like the church bake sale.
Yeah.
And, like she'll send me pictures of everything she's decorated. I'm like,
Mm.
wow. Yeah. I haven't baked a cookie yet. I'm managing to get dinner on the table. So that's my goal during December. I'm trying to stay away from it, more of the baked stuff. Just, watching I don't want to have to buy all new clothes and,
Good point.
so.
Good point.
But yeah, like she made peanut brittle all the time growing up. So I've got her classic recipe and I was gifting that for many years. But just, that, I don't know. I feel like food equals love in a lot of ways. And that's kind of so that's probably why I started the little personal chef side hustle that I do, where I'll go to people's homes and cook for them and make their meals for the week. So usually between 3 and 5 recipes for the family. And yeah, it's an adventure. And it's nice to get the feedback, even the critique so that I can, okay, yeah, I got to tweak this a little bit to make it a little bit more palatable this way or adjust the seasonings because everybody's got different tastes and preferences,
But
yeah,
it's like,
fun.
it's your love language, I think. No?
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, cooking
Like,
and things.
you don't feel well. What can I make for you? What can I bring by? Can I bring you a covered dish?
Yeah.
Something.
Oh my gosh, you fed us when I was working at the Monitor. I mean, deadline week meant quiches from EmmaLee Italia.
Well, there was like a vicarious intention there because I was like, I need to eat. I need to, and if I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna bring food for everybody else because I want everybody else to eat too. We all gotta be fueled.
Absolutely. I do miss that, actually. I should order something on my deadline days. Every Wednesday morning, can you deliver to the Diocese of Camden?
A special delivery.
But,
Oh, man.
like I said, we're talking about hospitality, but, you going into people's homes to cook for them, I'm sure that also it's beyond food. Like, I'm thinking there's dialogue that starts to happen in conversation. So it's company too, no?
Yeah, I mean, you are in someone's personal space. The kitchen is the heart of the home, so you do have an opportunity there to. I mean, that's very personal to cook for someone.
Yeah.
That's something they're going to be taking in. It's nourishment. And in the case of one client, I've been cooking for actually her elderly parents are in their own home with a caregiver, and they've been taking some of those meals to them as well. So it's actually 2 families that are eating whatever I'm making. So, it's a lot of people to consult for the right recipes, but I think they've appreciated not having to worry about that additional element in their lives because it's a lot when you're older and you're having a hard time cooking for yourself. So, but you actually have a connection with someone in your diocese at the remind me the name of the organization again. That is actually an outreach to elderly,
Right.
particularly.
Yep. So in the Diocese of Camden, we have Vitality Catholic Healthcare Services, Diocese of Camden. And we've had a guest, I believe, on before about a couple shows ago. But they have many services. They help with healthcare, parish nursing, going into people's homes to help with paperwork or deliver meals. But there is a new ministry starting there. I believe it is called Calls of Joy, and we're going to have a guest on in a second to talk about it. And the idea of fighting loneliness. And it's not just December that there's loneliness. I mean, first off,
Sure.
it's holidays, everybody's excited, but there also becomes, if you don't have family or you don't get along with them, or even if you can still be lonely in a crowded room, right?
Absolutely.
So
That's even harder, I've heard and experienced firsthand when you are not connecting with other people and they're around you. It's almost adding insult to injury because it feels like, okay, here's this opportunity and I can't connect for whatever reason. If it's, relationally or, perhaps if you're elderly and don't do well in a crowded situation, maybe hard of hearing or hard to keep up with the conversation, everything's moving a little fast. So it can, or, even just being out and about this time of year shopping and you see all these people who are so happy and you kind of make up stories in your head about how, their life must be just so wonderful. And here I don't have anyone to share the holiday with.
right. Absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to give her a call in a second here, and she's going to jump on. She's going to talk about this program called Calls of Joy, which is volunteers reaching out and calling people who might not be able to leave their homes and stuff. But then we're going to go a little further than that, jump into some other populations that, just let's not all forget to visit. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how not to maybe be so hard on ourselves. Like our houses don't have to look like a Hallmark holiday movie for hospitality to be successful.
I'm angling for that commercial that just shows a house where the bomb went off, and there's just everything everywhere and people still having a wonderful time because that's reality.
It's what it's about, too. They don't care if your house is clean.
No, they're not inspecting the shelves like
Right.
the white glove.
With the dust, the finger on the dust. All right, so we'll take a break and we'll be right back with our first guest.
Bishop Robert Barron.
Tolkien has reached out to, Nordic culture and literature and Icelandic sagas and all sorts of things. He learned a lot about the good, the true, and the beautiful from his study of pre-Christian cultures. He used narrative forms that were accessible to the culture. He adapted that to evangelical purposes. So that shows you that flexibility. It shows you a certain creativity in the evangelical art. He did not proselytize. Rather, he very delicately and indirectly and cleverly evangelized through the imagination, so that someone taking in these great stories of Tolkien or his friend C.S. Lewis, they're going to say, oh yeah, I get that. I recognize that pattern. So that finally when they hear the gospel, they'll say, yeah, I understand that. I learned that from The Lord of the Rings. I learned that pattern from the Narnia stories. That was the genius of those fellas.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Dr. Simon Greenleaf was a Harvard law professor. He wanted to debunk Christianity. He thought everything these people believe rests on their claim that Jesus rose from the dead, but that wouldn't even hold up in court. So he started writing about it, and he became a Christian. Why? He eventually concluded, what's going to put someone away in court? An eyewitness. What if you have a bunch of eyewitnesses? Jail. What if the eyewitnesses are all willing to die for what they saw? Case closed. That's what we have with the rising of Jesus from the dead. Not just people dying for a belief system. These people died for something way more than that. They died for something they saw. Big difference. St. Peter was crucified. He said, I'm not worthy to die like my Lord. Crucify me upside down. St. Bartholomew was skinned alive. It makes no sense to do that for a lie. The resurrection of Jesus, God conquering death, it's the best news in history. And the best part about it is, it's all real. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Better Together. I'm Jen Morrow, and with me,
EmmaLee Italia. How are
I
you?
almost just started talking and over that commercial, so that was Going to compliment your scarf. So for
Oh,
those
thank you.
people
Yes, I'm
watching
all
on,
green and red today.
I know you're very Christmassy. So, all right. So we're talking about hospitality, and we're going to introduce our first guest with us. She is from the Diocese of Camden, Christine Willard, and she is the manager of parish-based senior programs for Vitality Catholic Healthcare Services. Good morning, Christine.
Good morning. It's a mouthful,
Good morning.
I got that right.
especially in the morning.
Right.
The ironic thing is I did it perfectly right before the break, and then, of course, you were on. I'm like, oh, my goodness, and I just botched it. So good
It took me
morning.
a long time to practice that myself.
So EmmaLee and I we had just been talking about hospitality, and we're going to dive more into that. But first, we were talking about those who might be struggling or alone or loneliness or not even having to be alone, just maybe not be able to get to the house and stuff. And that brought up a new program we have in the Diocese of Camden. Can you tell us about it and what the name of it is?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. It's called Calls of Joy, and it is really our way at Vitality Catholic Healthcare Services to just begin to address and support those that feel socially isolated, seniors especially, that feel socially isolated or are socially isolated and feel lonely, especially at this time of year, but throughout the whole year. And so it's a way for us to connect in a uplifting way for those who would like to receive a phone call once a week, and we're doing them on Mondays. So it's beginning your week with a joy-filled call, and to have social interaction, uplifting conversation, just to offer that social support to those in need.
Christine, this is EmmaLee. I wondered what led to this inspiration to have a phone call ministry through the Vitality Catholic Healthcare Services. Was it something to do with the statistics that you recognize that this need existed?
Yes, yeah, great question, EmmaLee. I think that it's mainly about the fact that, right, it's social isolation is a public health problem. And those we serve through Vitality are seniors, are the aging population. And so there's 1 in 4 people age 65 and over that are experiencing feelings of isolation, according to research. So, and as we hear this, everywhere, whether it's, of course, across all age levels, but with seniors in particular, they're especially vulnerable because they could be in poor health and and living independently in your own home, but also is wonderful for a lot of reasons, but it also can put them at risk too of just feeling lonely in regard to that. So knowing that and hearing so much about and having seen it even out and talking with members that attend our parish social day centers in the Camden Diocese, hearing how much those social interactions have changed their lives, helped us to kind of begin to think about what other ways can we offer support and help and a resource for seniors in South Jersey.
It's interesting because I remember when we started first talking about this ministry and you were explaining it to the Office of Communications. It's easy to think, oh, okay, there's seniors at home who are lonely, but if we all just take a step back, we all have somebody in our own family that would fall into. I mean, that category falls into that. Maybe they're home and their children have moved away. Maybe I'm one of the children, and I don't call home as much as I need to or I should be. And I mean, it's kind of a wake-up call, would you say?
Yeah, I think that it does. It puts, when then we think about it, right? We have our focus on it now. We start to think, our family, our neighbors, someone across the street maybe, someone, in the parish and church, even though, and, we could, someone could live alone and not feel lonely or isolated, or you can feel lonely while even being with other people, right? So you don't know necessarily, but there are people in our lives where we might just think, hey, maybe they can, use a phone call or a visit. Of course, a visit in person is wonderful, but sometimes it's that phone call can make such a big difference and light up someone's day. Give them a chance to be social, to be, to feel that they are acknowledged, right, appreciated, accepted. There are three key things that we all need, and we don't realize it. I think those that are closest to us sometimes, need that as well.
And I would imagine that it's difficult for a lot of people who are in that population to be self-advocating. Like if they recognize that they're lonely, it might not follow that they would, I need to seek social interaction. I need, maybe for some people that's second nature, if that's part of who they are, if they're very extroverted.
Yeah.
But if you tend to be maybe more of an introverted type person, generating those social opportunities can be really challenging anyway. And then you add to that the time of life, health concerns, being unable to be ambulatory, to leave your home, that just severely changes your social opportunities. Whereas, when you're mobile, at least, okay, I can go for a walk, I can go to the grocery store, I can, make small talk with people in kind of low. I'm not sure if you would call that kind of a low grade social, but at least like you're acknowledging other people. It's different from just, being stuck in your home all the time.
Yeah. And it is really difficult, especially for the aging population, because of those things that you mentioned, right? So there could be poor health. You look at right now this time of year, it's less daylight. Many, seniors don't want to be driving, let alone they may not drive. So transportation's an issue. There's, like you mentioned, mobility, and some of that can just put them into that cycle of feeling, depressed and lonely. And so I think a collective responsibility, right, and you pointed that out, Jen, all of us feeling like, wow, thinking about who in our life can we include, in some way, especially for the holidays too, right? But all throughout the year, that we can once in a while connect with to let them know, we see you, we we're here for you, and giving them some time to, like, because as humans, we're meant to be we're social creatures, right? And so it's really needed for survival. And so if someone is unable to do that, it makes that so much harder. They might just feel like it's just not, it could roll into that feeling of, I'm not that important, right? I'm not seen. And so having us aware, all of us aware of it, collectively, I think then we can reach out and help and think about it and then and offer it, offer a call of joy, to someone and say, hey, would you be interested in this program? And, might take a few times of asking, but I think that having been with a lot of seniors and spend time with them, that they're really, they need it. They want it. They just don't know, like you said, how to go about it, or maybe are not equipped to go about it.
You keep using the word not seen, and that no matter age, I think that resonates with everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to be seen. They want to be seen by a friend, by their partner, by their children, So that, I think that just, to me, that resonates very, very strongly. Yeah. I mean, some of the, I'm not going to lie, some of the best conversations I've had have been wrong numbers. Somebody will call me or I'll call somebody and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And then the next thing you know, it's 10 minutes later and we're still talking. I mean, I am a talker, so that might have something to do with it, but I'm serious. It's fun. It's kind of freeing.
Right.
It is. And, it's like if you, like even talking to someone in the grocery store, Emily, you mentioned that, those interactions, those just recognizing something or complimenting someone, the helping someone to be seen is exactly letting someone know that they matter, right? And I think that, like you said, at any age. And I think, though, with the senior population, as we've heard, too, it's, they can feel it, almost like that invisible sometimes, right? They are more homebound. They are, their families are transiented and we're moving all over the place. They're not able to connect in the same way. But I remember my mom, that was, after my dad had passed, would have this little schedule of sitting at home making phone calls to her friends or family. And that half-hour phone call, or she'd write a letter, old-fashioned, right? Sounds old-fashioned, but that is really what her social connections were while we were at work, And so she needed that, and there were the things she did while she was still at home. So,
and I'm sure that gave her a sense of purpose too, like not only helping her social isolation or loneliness, but also feeling like I'm capable of helping someone else in that situation. And, we can both benefit.
Yeah, and that purpose, to feel purpose. which again, if it's something they can, if a senior can get out, is able to get out of the house or their home from their home, and they have transportation and mobility and can join, something, a ministry at a parish. We have ministries where, there's a lot of seniors involved, and they love attending that once a week, meeting, or, even once a month, because they feel they're belonging, a sense of belonging and purpose. That's, a wonderful way to do it. But for those that can't, that phone call, that conversation, and for them to ask questions and maybe answer questions from someone, and share their knowledge. They have so much life experience and stories to share. And we found that in the senior day centers and senior ministries throughout the diocese, they want to share.
So with
the
Calls of Joy,
help to bring that about too.
I was going to say, so is it volunteers that'll be reaching out to certain people on a list, or do you sign up?
It'll be volunteers that are going to reach out to after an individual registers. Very easy registration to call in to a line right here at Vitality, and it's a confidential phone call on a weekly basis, and really for a conversation, a light, uplifting conversation to share whatever an individual wants to share, and the caller and the person making the calls will, ask questions and learn, to learn about them, or in any way that we could be of help and support for someone who, could benefit from this. That's what these calls are about.
I love that. I have to give a little shout out to my mom real quick, because I would say one of the best gifts she gave me and still continues to give is her example of seeing people. She will talk to anybody, and she'll talk to them for 10 minutes. It could be the clerk at the grocery store. It could be the person at the post office. I mean, she'll go out of her way to compliment somebody on something they're wearing, or just to offer a smile and thank them for their, she calls somebody from customer service. She's, oh, well, thank you so much for your time. And we had a delayed travel situation when she came to visit us in August this past year. And we're dealing with the folks behind the counter. They were very helpful. And she was just went over and above to say, I just really appreciate all the time you put into this and taking care of us. And the expressions on their faces at being recognized with that compliment and feeling, oh, yeah, my efforts were seen. That's just the greatest gift I think you can give someone, is to recognize them and to take the time to treat them like a human, to converse and not just be like, okay, thanks, bye.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, these are basic needs, we all have. And for a lot of us, we get out, especially, as you're talking about hospitality, and there's work, and there's, family or friends. When we're younger, we can go join, we can participate how we want. And as we get older, though, we don't have that. Maybe it's food, maybe it's going to that food store that one time, right? Or that, interaction with that one person that day is all that they have. So for your mom, it's wonderful, that's that one moment that someone, for your mom, and recognizing them and complimenting and making them feel, valued, as a person. I just think that's beautiful. And I think that's a lot of what is missing today because of technology, because of our pace of life, because of, we talked about, families moving all over, and it's a little bit different than it was from what they remember, even us, our seniors, right? They grew up in an era where everybody was having each other over for coffee, or, having conversations, and all of a sudden a lot of that has stopped, and they had to learn, how to work an iPhone, or an iPad, and some haven't. So that's, there's a big gap there. And so going back to that basic of the phone call, or, to visit or to have those conversations in person, that's really priceless.
So
it's a gift.
You've mentioned, especially with the winter season and colder weather and less sunlight. Also, by the way, many 47-year-olds also don't want to drive after dark.
Yes.
Saying that's,
yes.
I'll speak for the one talking.
Two.
Two of us now. So what are some ways that we could prevent social isolation? If that might be us.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think at the top of it, for anyone that really feels, if they're going to the doctor and they can share their feelings about, if they are feeling any, emotional, physical, or, mental, strain or anything at all, to share that with your physician, your provider, because I think that's most important. And a lot of times, we do routine visits, but we don't think about really sharing those. And hopefully we're asked, or they're asked at visits, but to do that. And I think, some of the ways to do it is you could schedule each time, just like making that conscious effort, I guess, to schedule time in your day to just, touch base with family and friends and neighbors, whether that be in person, that'd be great, or, to schedule something or to have that on your schedule. But it also could be through, a video, doing a FaceTime, or text or email or, over the phone. Any of those things help to build is a social connection. And then also nurturing, we talked about this, nurturing friendships, whether that be through, writing a letter or planning an outing. Even the planning itself is a helpful, is exciting. It helps to, raise our happy, hormones. And and sharing a meal together and making that plan. If there's a faith-based organization or a parish, right, to spiritually, engage with others is another way. And like I mentioned, ministries, and a lot of ministries too have outreach ministries, whether it be Stephen Ministry or we have one in the Camden Diocese and one of the parishes, Share the Care. But there are ministries in the parishes too that have outreach, especially for seniors, to visit with them and to be with them. But we also, and then so there's some things, that they can do themselves, but also, we here at Vitality are available. One is the Calls of Joy program, and we have senior day centers, and there's parish senior ministries in the diocese, and we have care coordinators within Vitality that help with one-on-one health advocacy and help someone. They can also help with some social, identify some ways for them to find some ways to be social. So Vitality is all about supporting this as well, and of calling, I'll be happy to answer, help anyone and direct anyone as well. But there are ways to just be involved, even to join another activity that maybe it's something that at one point someone enjoyed doing, a hobby or an activity, and kind of looking at that to start a class to just get out, maybe during the daylight hours, just to meet people.
That's right.
Walking with others, I know there's a lot of walking groups. That's another thing in different communities. So there's some ways if that's, to kind of think about.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Christine. We appreciate it. If anybody's interested of being on that list, is there a website that somebody can go to or a phone number?
Sure. They can go to vitality.camdendiocese.org and / Calls of Joy program. So we have a web page for it, and we're happy to connect you right away.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Christine.
Merry Christmas to you both. Thank you, EmmaLee and Jen, for having me. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
A lot of good ideas right there.
Wow.
And, Christine is so right that so many of our parishes across all of the diocese have senior ministries, walking clubs.
Right.
I do like she said that when getting out and everything creates happy hormones. I would like to create a ministry called Happy Hormones.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Can we start now?
I agree. I wrote it down because it was so adorable.
Oh, that's the best.
I love it.
Well, you'll notice like a lot of parishes will have, thriving ministries that happen in the evening and in the daytime. So that depending upon, they're serving different groups, obviously.
Yeah.
So folks who still have full-time work during the workday might not be able to go in the middle of the day, but it's important to have those for people who are, in that season of life when maybe they're retired or they're no longer working full-time, and they need that sense of purpose and social connection, and, to have that tied to your parish, your faith is just, an added bonus. Something we started at our parish recently is Wednesdays with Walt. So our former pastor, Monsignor Walter Nolan, he's been recovering from knee surgery, but he's also spending a lot more time at our parish anyway. And one thing they started was after morning mass, he has just like a nice little conversation group that meets on Wednesdays, and it's starting that up again. So I'm like, oh gosh, I can't wait. I want to do that.
I love that. It's adorable.
And he's a great conversationalist. He has so many great stories. So yeah, I'm a little envious.
So we've been talking a lot about reaching out to other people, and want to switch a little bit. So to those who might be welcoming people into their homes, we're all called to love our neighbor and be hospitable. And I know, sometimes a lot of pressure can go into that as well. You
Self-imposed.
self-imposed. You always feel like your house has to be perfect. I have to make the best meal. And it just kind of got me thinking, because I also put a lot of pressure on myself when I decide to host, because I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna throw a party, and then like immediately after everybody's accepted, I'm like, that was a terrible idea. I'm freaking out. But like when you think about it, like look at the homes that you went to, that were the most hospitable. Like, what were some of the characteristics that stood out?
I can think of one family that hosted an annual Christmas party when I was growing up. And, I think they might have been part of my parents' Bible study, and they just invited the whole Bible study group, all the extended family and friends. I don't really remember anything about their accommodations. I just remember a house that was just filled to the brim with happy families and kids, and they always had an activity for the kids, and they had, visiting for the adults, and then we'd all get together in the living room and sing carols together.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's what I remember. I have no idea what their house looked like, but that was what, and I'm sure nobody else really remembers either. They just remember the company, the experience. And, it could have been outside in a barn, and we would have been just like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah. I think that's such a good reminder that, I guess I'm sure, I don't know, and maybe it's just me, like when I'm hosting a party, all I'm thinking in my mind is those perfect Hallmark Christmas movies with like
Of course.
the perfect china out and then matching napkins and da-da-da-da-da. And that causes a lot of stress. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to put all the food on the table and make it look pretty and stuff. But like you, those are not the parties that I remember, or not even just a party, just getting together for Christmas dinner. Those are not what I remember a year later, 2 years later. I don't remember drinking wine out of Waterford Crystal. I remember how somebody made me feel, or the jokes that we had, or the laughter, or opening up the coat closet and realizing they clean like I do. Shove everything in a closet so nobody can see it. That's what I remember.
Right. And so many different memories as a kid were surrounded by just laughter and music and the stories, and how can we get our parents to keep talking so we can play longer, like it's like
true.
They don't really mean we're leaving. They're just, they've got another 20 minutes in them.
Yes, definitely.
Let's go hide. But that's the memory making atmosphere, I think. And that doesn't mean you can't, I can't wait to cook something special. I'm all about like, let's try something fancy that I wouldn't do normally.
Absolutely.
But then we can self-impose that pressure to just, everything has to be just so, and it has to look picturesque when everybody walks in.
Right.
And, we can get to the point where we become Scrooge because we're so frustrated by all of those preparations and making it perfect, and this didn't go right. And, there's a Christmas movie, which is, it's not highly rated by the critics, but we love it. It's called Christmas with the Cranks. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yes, I have.
Where she's got to get the special ham because her daughter's coming home for Christmas, and like everything that ensues, gets run over by a truck. It's like, but it has to be just so.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to fall into that trap. I call it the Martha problem, like Martha and Mary, because Martha's in the kitchen and preparing, and why isn't anybody helping me? And, you're leaving all this to me. And Mary's just like, but Jesus is here. Like,
yeah. It's so true.
So, like, our guests, our moment that we're celebrating is more important than the atmosphere that we're trying to create.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to go back to the Waterford Crystal because I have Waterford Crystal that I got from my wedding.
You better use it.
Well, that's the thing. I never use it because I don't want it. I don't know. It sits in a cabinet because, I'm like, oh, I don't want it to break. And after the last year or two, I'm like, you know what? I'm putting it out. And then people are like, well, I don't want to use it. What if I break it? And I said, I don't care. I said, you know what? It's either that or I would rather break it and have that memory of it being used than it just sitting in a cabinet and never being used. I don't care if you break it. I'm not going to cry.
Point.
It's just a glass.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, you would be here and we'll have a laugh over it. And next year I'll have my dollar store wine glasses back. You know what I mean? So no, it's not a problem. But it's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. And that is perfect the way you said it, the Martha problem. I mean, that's just perfect. Like I tend to invite people over because that I like being around. I'm like an introvert extrovert. Like I love having people over and around because I get my energy from that. But on the same time, I get very nervous having people over. Like I almost would rather go to somebody's house. That's why I very rarely invite people over. I invite myself to other places. But
What can I bring?
exactly, it's not that I don't want you in my house. I don't. I would love it. It just makes me really nervous because I want you to have a good time. So like I'll be the one in the kitchen and my husband will be out, excuse me, but then somehow in the middle of it, he's like, you get out there. You invited everybody. And he turns into the cook. And actually it works perfect because he's right. Like I get that
Yeah.
energy and he's a better cook anyway. So true story.
I've heard that described as ambivert. So you get your energy from specific social situations, but then you need time to recharge afterwards. So
Really?
yeah, so like you can be introverted in certain situations, like, maybe it's a big, loud, crowded room with most people you don't know. That might not be like your gig. But then having a gathering with people you know really well and you can connect with and it's a little more comfortable, that isn't as off-putting, even if it is a bigger group.
Oh, that makes sense. I'm gonna Google this later.
Yeah.
I actually
think
almost
that's
said I'm
me.
going to look this up in the dictionary later, but then I'll really be, oh my gosh, she doesn't drive after night and she uses a dictionary. I actually do use a dictionary. But I'm still Googling that.
Yeah, no, I totally get the driving after night now. After it gets dark now, it's
too cold.
It's getting tough. It's
going home with
cold
the
and
cat.
it's dark. I want to stay home on the couch in my pajamas. But just thinking about Advent, I was saying this to my 8th graders the other day for religious ed. How can we prepare our hearts for Jesus? And we can get caught up in the externality of preparation. It has to be the decorations and the facade, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then trying to think interiorly, that's more challenging. Trying to prepare our hearts and our homes to receive Jesus and to receive our loved ones and family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's a whole other that's a whole other type of preparation.
Especially when we might not be feeling it. And I
Yeah.
hate to say that.
No,
but-
it's true, and things transpire in our lives that can make the holidays more challenging. It's like if you're going through something, maybe you have seasonal affective disorder or depression, maybe you've lost someone this year, celebrating is going to feel unnatural
Right.
for a little while. In fact, in our most recent edition of the Monitor, our December edition, it just went out, we have a little...
For all those on YouTube, hold on.
You
I'm
wanna
going to hold it up
again?
right here. Product placement. I'm also been drinking a coffee the whole time. That's also more product placement. EmmaLee's is more
There you go.
legit.
But we have a section, our In Focus section is on Christmas and Advent, and one of the articles that I did some research for was in helping those who are grieving at the holidays and trying to reach out and include them, to support them, not unlike, when we were talking with Christine about how to socially support those, and recognizing that if they're in a different season, they may not be capable of coming to a 2 to 3 hour party. Maybe they can show up for 15 minutes and be like, I'm good. I need to go, So just kind of recognizing that if you have a family member or a friend who's, I wouldn't try to isolate from the, oh no, they can't possibly want to celebrate. I better leave them alone. No, on the contrary, check up on them, see how they're doing, see if they're up for a short visit. Something that they can handle where they're still part of the celebration, but, within something that's reasonable for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's, I don't know. I saw this little saying or something, little meme or something the other day, and it was like, when New Year's happens and everybody's talking or, about their blessing or what went well for 2000 and what year are we in? 24. Remember that if you just got through the year, that's okay too.
Right.
And I don't know, that really resonated with me because it was like, especially around New Year's when it's like, oh, there's so much pressure to do like the best thing ever for New Year's. And I'll be honest, I'm usually asleep by 11:30.
Me too.
Even
I don't
when
make
I
it
was
to
like
the ball
19,
drop.
I don't even know if I ever had a great year. So, but it's okay. If the only thing that you did this year is get through it, then guess what? That's awesome.
And not every year is going to be a season of climbing physical mountains. Sometimes those mountains are interior.
Right.
Sometimes you are fighting just to make it through the next day and the next day. And, that doesn't mean the holidays don't exist, but they might look different for a season. They might be simpler, they might be quieter, and that's fine. And, in that situation, don't feel pressured to, if you have a tradition of inviting 25 people to your home, doesn't mean that that tradition can't take a break when, you need to take a step back and care for yourself so that your health is, is looked after.
Or like you said, preparing, during Advent,
Right.
instead of outward, prepare inward,
Mhm.
and w- Sunday Mass, yes, and everything like that. Maybe some more Bible studies during the week or daily Mass, and take some time for ourselves to prepare for the real reason of the
Right.
season, as they say, and so that we're ready on Christmas.
I love pulling out all the stops with the food. It's great, but there's always something that just doesn't go quite right. And I think we need to give ourselves a little grace in that moment and just be like, you know what, it's okay. And allow people, when people say, what can I bring? Give them an assignment, because people love to feel, oh, yeah, I want to contribute something, and then that takes the pressure off too. And like, oh, I need to make 47 dishes and, time it just right for the oven and everything. Let people come and contribute something and, make it a smorgasbord.
I like the word grace. We on the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception, Bishop Sullivan was in his homily used the words or the phrase intrusion of grace, allow for the intrusion of grace. And that really stuck with me, especially in this season when, like I said, we are preparing, but we can forget that because it's like, oh, I didn't get so-and-so's gift and I have to mail this before the deadline's up, or I have, like you said, like a whole bunch of different dishes to make. But and going back to what Christine said, but guess what? We didn't see somebody. You know what I mean? Like somebody who needed to be seen. Maybe it's us who needed to be seen. But if we can allow for intrusions of grace, I really loved that because it's
I'm gonna
almost like
remember that.
I know I wrote it down. It was like it is an intrusion. It's a forced pause because we're noticing it.
And it's so countercultural
Right.
now, like to pause and to
Yes.
actually take stock of what are we doing right now?
Right.
Like we're preparing for something, and it's not just a a food festival.
Mhm.
It's something much deeper than that, much more central to our being.
Mhm.
So to make time and space for that, we do have to pause. We do have to take a step back from everything that's on the calendar and say, no, I need this time to just enter into things spiritually and review the Christmas story, review my relationship with Jesus. What does it mean that he's coming this year?
Mhm.
Actually, one of our deacons gave a wonderful homily, I believe, last Sunday about how the first couple of weeks of Advent are focusing on Jesus coming at the end of time, that his reincarnation, I guess that's not really the right term, but like he's coming for
Coming
all
again.
at coming again. And then the last 2 weeks are focused more on the Christmas celebration, the incarnation, Jesus coming as man to save us.
Mhm.
And I just loved that contrast. And I thought, I'm going to make an effort to put off the more specific Christmas things in the house. Like, I put
Yeah.
up some greenery and things, but I put up the manger and I just literally have the manger with no Jesus and no animals and no people. It's just bare. And then, like, after this Sunday, I think I'm going to start putting some of the animals in there because,
Aw.
they lived there before Jesus got there. And
Right.
then, like, get closer to Christmas, then start filling in some of the figures.
Oh, I like that.
Just, that's my little mental, I need visible cues.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me that they have a friend who they the way they set up the nativity is like they put the wise men like across the room, and then they get closer every day.
I like that. That's the
I thought
best.
that was I could never do that
That's
because
better
I
than
have
the elf on the
cats.
shelf.
Oh yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah, the cats would not come off no matter where they are, so I couldn't do that. But I love that idea of like getting up, or like if you had kids, like young kids, and like having them move it a little closer.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't it adorable?
Wow.
I love that.
I wish I would have thought of that.
No, your idea it reminds me of that. Like, do something different.
Right.
Do
It
something
doesn't have to
different.
be the same every year.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to, now that I'm trying to impart more of the faith to religious ed students, I'm trying to think about, well, what am I doing that's different? how am I marking the season differently? And maybe it's taking time, to decorate gradually instead of the day after Thanksgiving, everything has to go up,
Right.
and just, no, I mean, I don't want to get to the 24th, 25th of December and then just be Christmased out, the trees on the curb the next day.
Right.
We've still got the whole Christmas season to celebrate and to embrace.
That always makes me sad when I see the Christmas
Me
tree
too.
on the curb.
Me too. It's like, it's not quite Valentine's Day yet.
I know. I do leave mine up quite a lot. But, going back to the intrusion of grace, I think one thing I'm going to try to be aware of at any Christmas party or Christmas dinner or not New Year's, Christmas Eve dinner that I'm at is, instead of feeling that I have to talk to everybody, just talk to one person at a time. What was Christine saying? Like, look somebody in the eye, or maybe you said it, like, don't, just pay attention eye to
Right,
eye.
so they
don't
feel seen.
Right.
Like
Don't
they're-
have to look around at everybody.
Right, and you're being absorbed in that. And one thing I noticed too, like now that people have the digital watches that are connected to the phones, I get a lot of this. And it's weird because to me, it signals still I'm running out of time when they could be checking for a text message or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
But I'm just immediately like, ooh, I'm intruding on this person's time. And I think if we can try to consciously, I'm not looking at texts, I'm not paying attention to any notification, turn the notifications off.
Yeah.
For a little while, and just be in the moment.
Yeah. It was noticed that when I was in Texas, my coworkers were like, we didn't see you put anything on social media and you didn't respond to any of our goofy texts, because we always have. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I just kind of turned off. I was like, I decided just to turn off. And they were like,
Yeah.
well, it was nice not hearing from you. I'm like, thank you.
No.
No, but seriously, I did. I just like, you know what? I'm not going to lie. It was hard. I'm what is that, Pavlov's dog? Like something goes off and I'm like, I have to
Right,
pick
we've
it up.
got that
Yeah. So I was like,
trained.
it was really hard, but it was really nice.
I'm happiest when I find that I haven't, like, I'll go sometimes a day without checking email, and then I have to throw away like 200 junk mails. But, it's worth it to just kind of, okay, I am not here right now. I'm here, and I'm going to stay in this, focused on this until I, whatever this commitment is, and oftentimes it's with another person, and you can't be efficient with relationships. You can be efficient with digital stuff,
Right.
but not when it comes to connections with other people in real time.
So I think one of my better together Christmas resolutions is I'm going to make some Christmas cookies, no phone, put on some New Kids on the Block, Funky Christmas, and
course.
be in the moment. I think that's and that's what I think my plan is. And then
I love it.
and remember that our houses don't have to be perfect when it comes to hospitality. It's just about being there with other people.
Right. Like, what is I forget which culture it is that celebrates where they go from house to house and they're singing carols and they're welcomed in with snacks and everything. Is that it? Oh,
Is that like the posada?
maybe.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
Las Posadas?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know.
I'm
but,
terrible at that. I just love
know.
that idea, though.
I love that
There's-
idea too.
And you just have to be ready to welcome people however your
Okay.
house is.
What time should I be over?
Well, give me a few minutes to get home. And
Well, everybody, it has been a great year,
it has.
and we thank you for tuning in again. And we hope that your Christmas season, Advent and Christmas season, is peaceful, welcoming. Be the Martha or the Mary, as you say, right, Em?
A little Martha, a little more Mary.
There you go. There you go.
That's what I'm working on anyway.
Yeah, and bust out that Waterford crystal. Who cares if it breaks?
Absolutely. You got it. Oh, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.